but something I want to get to first, which is it was a weird stat, and I didn't know how to digest it. Um, Tsitsipas drops out of the top 10.
Yeah.
No one-handed backhands for the first time ever in the top 10 of the ATP rankings. What was your initial reaction? Do you not care, or is it like a huge sign of the times, or is it both?
Yeah, you tell me. I mean, I feel like there's this, in social psychology, sometimes we have this optic bias where, the nice looking job candidate, we overestimate their skills. Or I was just reading about it with Nikola Jokic, right? Here's this NBA player. He's chubby. He doesn't look like an NBA player. I'm not going to draft him. I feel like we have this a bit of an optic bias with the one-handed backhand. It's pretty, it's aesthetic. We all wish we could hit it. I'm not sure how practical it is. This has been a diminishing shot. You know, I guess we have Lorenzo Musetti, but otherwise it's hard to think of an up and coming player. Certainly, you go to the juniors, you don't see a lot of one handed backhands. I wonder. You tell me. I mean, is this like the hook shot in basketball where it looks cool, but sort of the aesthetics outstrip the effectiveness?
Oh yes, yes. But also like I'll do like a deep dive on why I think this has been the case and it's fallen out of fashion. But to your point, like one handers look really cool. Like it just looks cool, right? Like Novak hits a backhand winner, and it's
Eh.
it's awesome. And then Wawrinka fires one line, and we go whoa. They both count for one though.
Exactly.
Like they both count for 1 point. Like you don't get bonus points. You don't get cool points. You know, yes, absolutely. Like I used to have this thing where I would go. Someone would be like, "Oh, there's this prospect you have to hit with them," and 17 from this place. Oh, so talented, so talented, so talented. And then I'd play, and it's like they can't move. It's kind of like they're flat footed. I'm like, but then they would fire one back in an hour, and I'd be like,
Kind of amazing.
ah, and I'd go, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
how much he has to move to hit that? Like at some point, you have to fix. Yeah. So your point is well taken. I also think it's just it's a direct byproduct of like I always say like players know what's going to work by
Yeah.
peeking around the
Exactly.
corners. Like when surfaces slow down a little bit, when natural gut no longer exists, and you can create this crazy spin profile. Especially on returns, that's the big thing. Like the big advantage is returns. Like, can you get your left hand on it and you have two hands on it and kind of knock them down? Returning has been completely changed, right? When I first started on tour, there were like three or four guys that could actually hit over a return on my first serve, right? It was like Safin, Hewitt, Agassi. I'm sure there's someone else. And then there were a ton of guys like a Henman who would chip it in, and then you would kind of, start dancing a little bit, right? And you would get into the point. And then by the time I retired, it was like 80% of the tour could hit over it by virtue of the strings, the surface changes. So, contrary to every fan who watches us live and says, hit it to their backhand. Like, I promise you, we've thought of that. Like, I promise you, like, I've never once gone, oh man, I should just hit it there. That was simple. What am I paying Brad Gilbert for? This
Right.
guy, accountant Larry, knows what's going on in the first row at Leg Mason or Citibank, whatever it's called nowadays. But yeah, I think it's just listen, when it was slice specific, where you were trying to get in as fast as possible, when you could return with a chip and get away with it, the one-hander made a lot more sense. Now if you chip, and now you're feeding Rafa a chip in the middle of the court, you're not going to break that often. Like you're not getting any help from the court. You're not hitting like a little low, slimy chip, a la Lodra, where it's getting away from you and you kind of have this like accidental effectiveness. So there are a lot of reasons it takes more time to set up. Guys are hitting bigger. How are you going to take a full swing when Alcaraz is running around cranking forehands, right? It's easier to check that ball down. The defense that you can play on a backhand side, Sinner, Medvedev, all these, crazy people who can hit, sliding two-hand backhand. Novak invented it. Ferrer was great at it. The backhand out of the corners where it's not a defensive shot anymore and you can switch directions up the line. That's so much tougher to do with one hand. I think we kind of avoided this conversation for a long time, largely because of Roger and what like a supernatural talent he was on that side. A magician, he could have played with a Louisville Slugger and still made, something happen with the ball and made it dance around a little bit. So it feels like it was coming. It's something I didn't think about at all in January because it was like the new normal and you just didn't think about it. And then someone out of the top 10 and first time ever, it's like, oh, okay, this is like actually, it kind of feels like the end of an era a little bit. And I don't see a comeback for it, right? I don't think there's a lane where, you're automatically going to teach your 12-year-old to stand inside the court and try to torch one hand backhand return winners and play defense out of that side like that. I just don't see it coming back, which is sad because, as we said, John, they look really fucking
They look
cool.
cool.
Super cool.
You know where the one-hander is thriving? Pickleball.
On the forehand side.
Yeah, on the forehand side.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, we're talking strictly about men, but you got to go way. I don't even know the answer to this. Diane Perry, maybe. I mean, you got to go way down the rankings on the women's
Oh
side.
gosh.
They sort of got to this first. And again, I mean, there's some trends in tennis that come and go, but go watch a junior match. I'm not sure. You go watch the juniors. You don't see a lot of one-handers. What it's tennis is an industry. It's a competitive industry. We adapt, we evolve, we adjust for technology, and we all love the one-hander in theory. But I think it's hard. If your 10-year-old's taking up competitive tennis, I think it's a tough case, tough to make a business case, right?
Yeah, I think also one of the things we will see maybe at some point is, and I'm still waiting for it, is someone who returns with two hands and then goes to one during rallies.
Oh, and the point, yeah,
Yeah, it is,
not
and
bad.
it sounds like a crazy thing until you see the fluency of someone like a Murray, right, who can take one hand off the racket and hit that chip. He had one of the best chips on earth. You didn't normally associate people who had two handers with having great chips for a long time. Rafa has a great chip. He can switch directions. That's kind of his preferred choice to get the rally he wants to go back to the forehand side. Andy Murray has a great chip. We talk about women not having one handers. Barty essentially had a one hander that she used all the time, right?
Right.
She would hit the slice. Once she got into a point, that's pretty much all she hit by default. She just returned with two hands and would hit passing shots with two hands is basically where it netted out. So I don't think that's a leap to say that may happen at some point, but it just feels like one-handers are riding off into the sunset like a really cool looking cowboy. Imagine that shot, but like
Good.
a one-hander.
I like that.
Unfortunate, but as a
Times
friend
change.
Bruce Hornsby said before Tupac, that's just the way it is.
Didn't think we were getting a Bruce Hornsby reference in, but what else?
Yeah,
What else we got?
we're capable
Pretty
of many
hip.
things on this podcast. Hopefully good content is one of them. Jury's out.